What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Rizq podcast. I'm joined here today with a very, very special guest, Mr. Abrar Hussain. Let's get right into it. Abrar,
yes.
How you doing, bro? You
good?
good?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much.
Good. Abrar, I kind of just want to get straight into it, really.
Yeah.
I don't even really want to give you too much of an introduction because actually I want you to tell your story. I want you to tell the people, who you are, what your background is, what you're doing now, and kind of what your vision is for the future. But in essence, Abrar is a filmmaker, and we're here in the cinema for a very special occasion.
We're actually in Glasgow.
We're in Scotland for a special screening of Abrar's new movie, One Night in Aqsa. But before we get into One Night in Aqsa, Abrar, I just wanted to kind of start off by saying that actually you're someone who's really inspired me in my life because although I haven't known of you for too long, I think when I first saw your first major documentary that came out, which was One Day in the Haram, that was really, really inspiring to see. I think the Muslim community is really lacking in the creative side of things in media and getting very high quality professional movies made. And when I watched One Day in the Haram, it really just blew me away because, to get that close, to get that intimate with the Kaaba, but also the people that are working there. And, that for me just blew me away. But the thing that really inspired me more, actually, was the fact that you are a Muslim in this industry. Because this is something that I mentioned to you a few days ago on the phone, which is, we come from subcontinental Asian cultures where the future for all of us is one of three things, right? Is you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a lawyer, right?
Or a computer technician.
If you work in IT,
Yeah.
sorry for that.
IT, yeah.
But so I just want to kind of find out a bit more about your background and how you got started. So tell us kind of how did your journey begin?
Okay, yeah. I mean, alhamdulillah, firstly, everything's just a blessing from God. So I kind of do see it. I'm glad you used that word journey because I really do see it as a journey. I mean, for me, everything's been really, really cool because I never expected anything, but it was my hobby. It was something I loved. So when I was 10 years old, I was walking around. I was one of those kids just always with a video camera. And this was before phones really came out. So now everyone's walking around with phones. But back then you had to have a video camera. So I had a very small Sony video camera that would hook onto my hand like this. And I'd go around just shooting everything basically all through from 10 years old through to when I went to uni at 18, 19, I was still doing that. And it was all just because I loved it, just because I loved shooting things, and that was my first love, was the camera. And I kind of mastered the camera from a very young age. I learned what all the little buttons did. I understood at 12 years old. I understood what white balance is. I understood about framing. I understood all these things because I just, it was just natural. And so,
but one question that comes to my mind is, how did you figure these things out? Nowadays we have YouTube, right? You can type anything. How did you figure that out?
Literally from playing with the buttons, thinking, wait, there's a new button here. I want to know what this button does, and just being inquisitive about it and wondering how it could affect my shot, and things like this. So. But and then as I grew older and got more into it, obviously when I started picking up professional cameras and I started picking up Sony CPCs first, and then Sony, I think Z1s, and then after that Red cameras, and then Arris. It was just a natural extension. It was a natural progression. All the buttons seem the same to me. Like normally when I pick up a camera, I don't have to look at any kind of instruction manual. It's literally because everything is the same. Generally, it might be dressed in a different way, or the menu function might be different, but generally all cameras do the kind of same function. So it was really instinctive. It was very easy, and it was just a natural progression onto bigger and bigger camera systems. So that was my first love, is the camera, and I'm glad it worked that way. I'm glad that I had a technical understanding of the camera and the capability of cameras before I got into writing, producing, directing. Before any of that, it was just the love of the camera. That was where it started.
That's excellent, and I think it's really inspiring because you picked up the camera, you had a passion for this, but you didn't let that passion kind of move to the side. No. It was that was your focus, right? Yeah. How did you or did you have to, I suppose the question, what were the kind of the sentiments of your family, your friends, your peers, how did they kind of see what you were doing?
I mean, I think as with anyone, with most people who are going to be getting to this thing, kind of from an Asian Muslim kind of background, they're going to be innovators within their family. Like, there's going to be no one else doing it. So I was the same in my family. There was no one else who I could look to or aspire to. There was no role model for me. There was no kind of someone I could see that, hey, they did this in the creative fields. Maybe I could do this. There was nothing like that. So it was literally just me, myself, and I. But I'll be honest, my family didn't discourage me because, I was a very headstrong kid, I really knew what I wanted to do and I really, went through with it. But I never wanted to study media studies. I never wanted to go to film school. And I think part of the reason for that was because I knew that actually it's not going to count for much. And, other people I spoke to in the industry, they told me it's not going to count for much. The experience is everything, until you get some credits or you get something and it becomes successful or becomes, popular amongst audiences, then it's not really going to count whether you've got a degree in this or not. So I actually did my degree in business, and it's kind of funny because it still comes in very, very handy, on the producing side, the business side of my work, the stuff that I learned at uni in terms of marketing, in terms of business, in terms of development, all these things came in very, very useful on the producing side. But on the creative side, it was just, funny story actually. So I did this business degree while I was at university. I went to Kingston University because I used to film everything. I was filming in my uni. University. Yeah, shout out to Kingston University. I hope anyone from Kingston is watching. When I was at Kingston University, I was doing my normal thing, which was just to film everything. And I started filming some of the group projects we were doing at Kingston University. And Kingston University, the lecturer actually came. He saw some of the footage. He said, this is really good. Wow. He goes, we'd love to use this as a kind of knowledge resource for future students coming. So actually my first paid job, because they actually paid me for that footage, was at Kingston University during university. So it was just like a talent I had. And, we used to film all kinds of things, the parties that were going on, weddings that were going on, lectures that were happening at my house. My dad was very famous around our area for bringing imams from different areas and would have gatherings at our house where they would talk and, the audience would have questions and that. So it'd be about 40 or 50 people in the house. I'd film those kind of things, So that was where everything started from. But
And now, for example, it's very easy to start editing, right? So I mean, I've got a MacBook. iMovie is my best friend, right? Back in your day, how did you edit? Because I remember having some of these older cameras, and you're literally just splicing on the tape itself, right? Yeah. You're moving backwards and forwards.
I mean, I think the first proper camera I had was the Z1, and it was at that time digitape. So everyone had these little mini DV tapes, basically. And what you could do, you could digitize those. So my first process when editing back then, say around 10 years ago, was to digitize all the footage, and then it'll be normal. It'll be on a Premiere or Final Cut Pro, my two kind of preference softwares. I started on Premiere with editing, and then but once I got hold of Final Cut Pro, I never went back to Premiere from that. I kind of always, it resonated with me, it worked easily with me, and I think it's all about, you should find a software that you're comfortable with, that suits your workflow, So I really liked Final Cut Pro, and since I started, and that was actually at uni days when I picked that up, so for the last 10 years been editing on Final Cut Pro.
Amazing, mashallah. That's really interesting to know and see, and I think one of the things that you highlighted there as well is the fact that your family were never discouraging you from following your passions.
Yeah, I mean, they never knew it was serious, though. They never knew it was serious. I was just always doing it. And if I'd really wanted to do a degree in film studies or something like, or go to film school, they wouldn't have stopped me. They would have probably said, okay, we'll encourage you. One interesting point about my family, see, when I did decide to take the jump, because there's always a jump, there's always a moment, I think, in filmmakers' careers, in a producer, where they have to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do full time now. And this is going to be my career. This is how I'm going to earn my living. And this is what I'm going to do. At that point, then you do need to have a conversation with your family, because, at that point I'd come out of uni. I started working as a manager. I was in a corporate kind of environment. I was making a lot of money actually as well. And it was good. And, at the point I decided to go and start working for nothing again and start right at the beginning of this media career, I had to say to the family, look, you guys have to support me for the next year. I said, for the next 12 months, it's going to be very hard for me, but I'm going to try and do these things. I really want to do it. And they said, alhamdulillah. 12 months, no problem. So that's what happened. And, blessings from God. In that 12 months, I mean, I made the first show, my first ever professional show, which was called Model Moss, which was aired on the Islam channel. And, thanks to the blessings of Allah, that first show became, a massive monster hit. Basically, it became the most successful show ever made on Islam Channel, and we came in so much media. So suddenly, my parents were seeing me on Channel 4 News and on the BBC News and in newspapers everywhere. Suddenly they were, hey man, maybe he's got some talent. Maybe he can actually do this. So a lot of belief came from there. They kind of believed in me as well, and my family believed in me, and I think it was just I keep coming back to it, but I think for me, my personal journey, it's all been a blessing from Allah. And we'll come back to Model Mosque and how it influenced me a bit later, because it's directly related to One Day in the Haram as well.
MashaAllah, yeah. And so kind of we've come to a good point here, because now you've gone from being that 10-year-old running around with a camera. People think that, what a cute kid, right, running around.
Yeah.
At least he's got a hobby, right?
All the aunties are going, hey, film me. It was good.
And then obviously went into university. You studied business. It wasn't media studies, because actually you'd already researched the fact that having a media degree won't help you. It's the experience.
Yeah.
So you kind of got best of both worlds, where you've got the business degree, but then you're also working on your media as well at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're getting the experience that the industry requires, but you're getting a degree which really, really will help you in future life, understanding how business works.
Absolutely. And I don't want to discourage any of those brothers or sisters who are in film studies courses or are studying at film school, because I'm sure they're going to know as well, that gives you a very sound technical understanding. See, I learned the technical stuff myself just through sheer interest. I was so interested in it. When you're interested in something, you'll pick it up really easily. Exactly. There's kids out there who are really interested in cars. I've never been interested in cars, but I've got little cousins. Really they know everything about cars. They know how to take it apart. They know how to fix things. They know how to do oil changes at 15 years old or something like that. I never knew those things, so I wasn't interested in cars. Exactly. But I feel like if you're interested in something, you will pick up the knowledge anyway. Film school and courses do give you a really good technical understanding, but it will come back down to the same thing. And I'll say this anywhere. It will come down to what you've done. It will come down to what you've made. You're very unlikely to get a big job or a big budget from someone to produce something if you haven't produced anything and you've only got the degree. So it all's going to come back to experience in the end.
Absolutely. And so, so you've left university now. Yeah. And so after university, you decided to pursue the media kind of route.
Yeah.
You joined Islam Channel. What was it about the Muslim sector? I mean, you mentioned how your father would always bring these da'is and these sheikhs. So obviously he kind of instilled that love, and I'm guessing both your parents instilled that love for Islam, for Allah, for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for the Quran in you from a very, very early age. But even still, it's very tempting to work for the BBCs, because again, you can tell people, I work for the BBC, or I work for Channel 4, or I work for these organizations. What made you decide to even go down the route of Islam Channel?
I mean, I'll tell you two very interesting things. First thing is that that show that became very successful on Islam Channel, before I took it to Islam Channel, I took it to a number of places and got rejected. Everyone told me it's impossible to make this show because the mosques will never give you access like this for the kind of thing you want to do. You'll never get the access. So it got actually rejected. And I won't say the names of the companies that rejected it, but they know who they are. They rejected it. They basically laughed me out of the building. They were like, this is never going to happen. You're just dreaming if you think something like this. So when I actually did make it, I'll tell you, Islam Channel, Muhammad Ali Islam Channel is the only one who actually believed in it, who was willing to take a chance on a producer who'd never produced anything before and wanted to produce what for Islam Channel was a very big budget show. Took a lot of resource to make that show. It was filmed all over the country, all over the UK, so it took a lot of resource. So I think tremendous credit to Islam Channel for actually giving me that opportunity in the first place. In terms of your question, why make Islamic shows? I mean, this is just something that was always in me. It was just always, and for me, I found it to be the most interesting thing. And I didn't see it as a disadvantage even in those days. I didn't see that. Oh, if I'm going to be, we was talking about this too. Actually, I was talking to someone the other day. I was talking to an executive at Channel 4 about this same thing. And I was saying, look, I said, people who are working with the Islamic entertainment industry, say the fields that we're in, there's constraints. There's massive constraints. when you're working in the mainstream for someone like Channel 4 or one of these companies, literally sky's the limit. In terms of your creativity, your concepts, you can come out with anything. It can have swearing in it. It can have violence in it. It can have nudity in it. It can have whatever. There's no constraints. These guys operate on a blue sky level, complete free thinking. Yeah. For Muslim creatives, it's much more difficult. It's much more difficult because we have constraints. Exactly. We have a framework within which is the halal framework within which we operate. So therefore, it's actually much harder to be a Muslim creative because you have so many barriers and stuff, and you have to, you want to stay within these barriers, you know. And if you wouldn't, then you're not an Islamic entertainment producer. You're just a normal producer. Exactly. But I always thought, and anyone who's growing up being a producer, a filmmaker, a director, anything like that, it's the coolest thing. As a kid, at 10 years old, I thought this is the coolest thing. Like, there's nothing more cool than this, But as I grew older, I figured out there was something more cooler than being a producer. Right. And that was to be an Islamic producer, That was the coolest thing in the world. To be able to spread goodness. So we got the sound checks going on now. To be able to spread goodness, to be able to spread knowledge of deen, to be able to use your products as a form of dawah. There were so many advantages for your own deen, for your own knowledge. It was alhamdulillah. It was just the best of both worlds for me.
Excellent. And just for the viewers at home, this is how live we are. Yeah, we're literally here.
There's volunteers running around. They just try not to come in the camera. Yeah.
So we're here for the screening, and I think it's amazing actually because you're talking about from when you started off at 10 years old, and now we're here on your second major documentary film.
It's surreal, absolutely surreal.
And I think one of the things that strikes me is from what you're saying is that actually, when you have something that you believe in, that is what you will do. Yeah. That's what you will follow.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't sound like you're swayed by other people's opinions of you or of what you should be doing or anything like that. Yeah. You do what you feel is right.
Yeah. We should ask Numan to turn Numan, can we turn the volume down a little? Is it them? Oh my God, audience is coming in, bro.
The audience is fine.
Audience is coming in.
If we can just turn the volume a little bit.
Okay. I don't know how it's going to sound, but should we just carry on?
Let's just carry on and see how it comes out, inshallah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, absolutely. I think I was just very headstrong. As a kid, I was very headstrong. I always did my own thing. I was never swayed by anything. I was certainly, you can put it here if you want, if that's better. I was never swayed by kind of public opinion, and I think that goes across the board. That's not just basically for people in media. That's anywhere, Even, I'll tell you something, even in Islam Channel, when I was making a show like Model Mosque, there was opposition from within the Muslim community. They were saying, no, this show is going too far, or, had some kind of disagreement about the show, Wow, lots of, all the audience is coming in now. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I think we can carry on. Basically, you see people are taking their seats. We're in the middle of a screening in Glasgow. It's just an amazing thing. I just want to say, if I can, that alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful to all the audience who come to see these films. They're actually the ones who keep this rolling, and because they give the support and come out and support films like this, it encourages more people, more Islamic filmmakers as well. It's the most amazing thing. It really is. I'm touched by it, honestly.
Absolutely.
I can't believe all these people are coming.
Absolutely, and
Islam, how you doing? Everything good? Wow, amazing to see you. Assalamu alaikum, Sonia, how you doing? Yeah, absolutely. How you doing? Assalamu alaikum. Everyone doing well? Yeah. Good to see you.
Assalamu alaikum.
How's everything?
How long have you got left?
No man, we're kind of live, so.
How you doing? Nice to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
This is what happen when you go to a screening and you're filming with the director.
Oh, good.
This is what you start about 2 hours earlier.
Oh, we're about to start the screening, I think. So,
What time are you on?
how long have we got?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
20 minutes, inshallah, let's do it.
Okay, let's carry on
20
for a
minutes
bit.
or whatever. If these seats get filled as well.
Yeah, we'll move from here in as soon as it gets ready.
Inshallah.
Okay, let's carry on. Sorry, bro, I ruined your train of thought there. Carry on.
No, it's fine. I think let's dive into it then, right? Let's just get straight into it. 20 minutes left. I want to talk to you about your life over the last 4 years.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Right? 4 years ago, I believe it was. Is that right?
Yeah.
You were in Saudi.
Yeah.
You were making videos about hospitals and other businesses like this at the time.
Commercial, corporate videos. Yeah.
Corporate videos, right? And I remember in one of the interviews that you had, you said that you met with a brother who wanted you to do. He wanted you to stay in Saudi.
Yeah.
And you said to him, the only way I'll stay in Saudi is if I can do something in the Haram.
Yeah.
Where did that thought even come from? Is that something that you've been kind of planning for a while, or was it just a thought that came out?
No, I mean, I don't know where it came from. I credit Allah for all of these things. You know, it just came to me that this guy was here. He was saying, stay in Saudi. And he wasn't just saying stay. He was like, please stay in Saudi. Okay. We need a producer out. We need you. And I was like, man, I'm not sure. Because I wasn't sure I could live in Saudi. You know, I'm a very free person. I'm a creative, obviously, and I'm used to my freedom. And you know, I always thought Saudi, maybe it's not so free. Maybe I'm going to be restricted here. Maybe my creativity is not going to work properly here. So, you know, I was very in two minds about it. But, you know, I said to him the thing about the Haram, because I'd always been, you know, attracted to mosques. Remember we talked about the show, Model Mosque?
Yes.
It was about mosques in the UK. Now, when I made One Day in the Haram, I think a really important point is that when we made Model Mosque, we thought that was an end in itself. We thought that was the whole thing, like amazing. We had this success with Model Mosque. But when I was making One Day in the Haram, I realized that actually, look at what Allah does, because he was literally just preparing me. He was training me, because, you know, to go from making a show about mosques in the UK to making a show about the biggest and most important mosque of all in the Haram, it was just a training program. That was the journey that we spoke about at the beginning. It was literally just a journey. So, alhamdulillah, I was so blessed by that. But honestly, the idea just came to me like that. It was like Saudi, you know, I'm meant to be here. I honestly felt that. I felt I'm meant to be here. And I had an instinct that something was going to happen with the Haram. We hadn't talked about it to anyone, but my instinct told me that, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to make a way for me to do this. So I kind of really believed in that, and then so that's why he agreed to do something in the Haram. He said, absolutely, I'd love to do something in the Haram as well. So we had a real meeting of minds, like straight away. You know, we had a real kind of synergy and a kind of understanding between ourselves. You know, and that's where it all started from. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. I thought it was really funny actually when you said at the kind of beginning section that you pitched this idea about the mosques and they laughed you out. And in my head I was thinking, you know, now look at where he's gone to the Haram, right? Where it's so difficult to kind of get any kind of access, any form of access. And so subhanAllah, you're absolutely right that was the training, because you also said that you were not necessarily laughed, but you were rejected many times. And you just kept on having to knock the doors.
You know, it kind of reflects itself in the Haram as well. You know, there were periods, although I had the inner belief, you know, but there were periods like, you know, when I wrote 6 different treatments for One Day in the Haram. 6 different treatments. And each one was great. I thought it was great. And when I take it there, you know, there's so many people for a film in the Haram that have to agree that this is a good concept, or, you know, so many signatures that you need. So, you know, when it would get rejected once, twice, 3 times, and I'd go back to the drawing board and write something new, I kind of thinking, wow, is this actually really going to happen? And plus, you know, I've been talking to contacts at the BBC and they told me, it's so difficult to get access to her and we've tried so many times. And I thought, if these guys can't do it, how are we going to do it? But, you know, like I say, the brilliant thing about the period waiting for the permissions for One Day in the Haram was we were in the Haram most of that time. So, you know, it's just an extended pre-production for me. And, you know, I felt like, you know, it was just a massive period of research, but also a very good period just to pray in the Haram, just to be familiar with the Haram. So, you know, when I went to when I went to the Haram, it felt like I'd come home. It felt like I belonged. I never wanted to leave that place. You know, it's just the most beautiful place in the world. I mean, what could be better? You know, so literally I was very, very calm. I really thought to myself, if Allah wants this to happen, no one's going to be able to stop it and it's going to come. And if Allah doesn't want it to happen, then, you know, I can do whatever I want. You know, it's never going to happen. So I was very calm that everything was part of Allah's plan. And either way, I was accepting of that plan and I was very happy with that plan, because I thought, even if I don't get to make a movie, look where I am. I'm in the Haram. I'm in the Haram for like 8 months. I'm here, you know, so it was just perfect. It's
almost like you never want it to end, right?
I never
want
to
release this movie. I
never wanted to, to be honest, never wanted to end, And I always said to myself, I will inshallah go back to the Haram one day, because there's so much more. There's so many stories within Mecca that need to be told. So, you know, but the same as Jerusalem as well. These are magnificent cities with magnificent histories, and you just can't get enough of them, to be honest. You can't get enough of being there.
Absolutely. And I think we should talk a bit more now about Al-Aqsa.
Al-Aqsa, yes.
Because One Day in the Haram, of course, people know about it. It's out there. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, this is for Jeff Bezos out there, right? I subscribed to Amazon Prime just so I could watch One Day in the Haram.
Alhamdulillah.
So inshallah, Jeff, the same thing will happen for Al-Aqsa as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing about One Day in the Haram, when we made it, I thought it's probably going to have a lifespan of around 2 or 3 years.
Right.
But now I've realised that, alhamdulillah, One Day in the Haram is a film that is going to be around for the next 20 years. People are still going to be because it really set a benchmark, especially for Islamic productions and especially for a film about the Haram, because even mainstream companies like Channel 4, like BBC, who saw One Day in the Haram were like, wow, look at the quality, so it made everyone say wow. So I think, One Day in the Haram is going to be around for years and years and years, and that's just a blessing from Allah, because the amount of barakah in that, especially for me personally, the amount of people, I get messages every day, literally every day on my social media, people saying, hey, we just watched One Day in the Haram and just want to tell you, brother, it's amazing, we're making dua for you and things like this. It's the most beautiful feeling in the world. I'm so grateful for that. One Day in the Haram has been watched by 35 million people around the world now. It's an incredible number of people, and the thing is, we're still only scratching the surface. There's still so many countries. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with a distributor for Africa. So now we're going to get into those countries that we haven't touched yet: Ethiopia, Somalia. All these African, Mali, these African countries, Sudan. It'll be broadcast on national TV there, and the audience numbers are going to go up by millions. So alhamdulillah, that's the whole point. Is just to get it out to everyone. Everyone that we can. With One Night in Al-Aqsa, inshallah, we hope for the same now. We, all the same companies, the TV channels, the broadcast channels, the airlines that basically took One Day in the Haram are now saying, we want an option on One Night in Al-Aqsa. So inshallah, it's going the same way, and we hope inshallah it will continue and it will have the same impact as well.
So you finished One Day in the Haram, that's released. Did you get the idea for Al-Aqsa during One Day in the Haram, or did it come afterwards? Or how did it come about?
I always find this, and this is honestly being true. People around me, who are around my circle, they believe in me a lot more than I believe in myself. Like, honestly, I was never convinced that One Day in the Haram is going to be a hit, But people saw it, like close associates who I showed it to, to get feedback, and they say, Abrar, this is going to be a massive, massive hit. And I was like, well, let's see, it's all up to Allah, I would never allow myself to come out of that kind of humble kind of state, because that was just the state I was in when I was filming One Day in the Haram. I think, alhamdulillah, these things are all blessings, and these things are all ordained by Allah. So I feel like, whatever's happening in my career at the moment, the new projects that are coming out, the doors that have been opened, all of this is building towards something. And I hope, inshallah, we're on the brink of really changing the Islamic entertainment industry, of making Islamic products. I mean, just look where we are. It's surreal, right? We're in a cinema in Glasgow. We're doing a 20-city cinema tour. We had a premiere in Leicester Square just 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's just incredible, the things that are happening, and around the world. It's not just in the UK. It's like these films are hitting around the world, different audiences, different languages. One Day in the Haram has been subtitled in like 12 different languages now. One Night in Al-Aqsa, we're also going to subtitle into multiple different languages. So, the reach is incredible. The films literally travel easily all around the world. It's amazing.
That's amazing, mashallah. So, what for you is the kind of the purpose behind One Night in Al-Aqsa? What do you want to achieve with this movie?
Yeah. With One Night in Al-Aqsa, I mean, there were options. After One Day in the Haram, of course, a lot of doors opened, a lot of offers came through, a lot of people wanted to work with me, with the company, Red Face Films. We picked this project even though we knew it was going to be a very hard project. We knew it was going to be much tougher and less commercially viable than other projects that were on the table. But for me, it just felt like that was what I was meant to do. I don't feel anything is ever by mistake. I don't think Allah gave me One Day in the Haram so I could just, do that and become, popular amongst it and just do what I wanted. No, I thought there's a long plan here, and I felt One Night in Al-Aqsa was the movie that I had to make, because I felt that was the movie that was the most important thing that I could make for Islam at that time. And I felt, there were a couple of reasons. Number one is that everyone was so confused about Al-Aqsa. I myself, growing up, know how people felt, because I was confused about, like, what is Al-Aqsa? Is it this dome? Is it this Ghibli mosque?
Exactly.
What is Al-Aqsa? It was so confusing, and I think this is part of the problem that so much different, reports were coming out, and people were just getting confused, so the knowledge wasn't there. And secondly, I just felt, this is the third holiest site in Islam. it's neglected in a way because not as many people visit Al-Aqsa as they visit Makkah and Medina. But really, Al-Aqsa is up there with Makkah and Medina. It should be revered in the same kind of way. So I really just wanted to revive that. I wanted to show a love for Al-Aqsa, and especially, it's not just the place, it's the people as well. We have to think about. So I wanted to show a love for the people of Al-Aqsa, the people of Jerusalem, the people of Palestine. It was really to stand in solidarity with them and make something that they would actually be proud of. To make them proud. And not just to make them proud, to make us as Muslims all over the world proud. Hi. No, what's up? Oh, okay. Just what they thought about the film, what they liked about it, anything like that. Yeah. Free is enough. Yeah, because we want it to be quite quick fire, isn't it? Less than 60 seconds each. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. So what were we talking about? Alexa. Yeah. Talk about the audience.
The people, right?
Yeah.
The people.
They're
proud,
very
right?
important. Yeah.
So in One Day in the Haram, my favorite section of that was with the cleaners. Right? I'm sure many people have said the other sectors or probably the cleaners.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, the cleaners are amazing because of just the method and the care that they take.
Yeah.
You also had the media department, you had the muadhins, there was lots of different departments that you were showing.
Yeah.
What can people expect from One Night in Al-Aqsa?
I mean, One Night in Al-Aqsa, I would say actually it's a far more fast-paced film because life in Jerusalem is faster than life in Makkah. Makkah is a very it's relaxed in a way because it's so spiritual there. Everyone's in a spiritual bubble there, so that is reflected in that film. It's a very peaceful film, a beautiful-looking film. I mean, you're not going to see, alhamdulillah, you're not going to see many documentaries that look as beautiful as One Day in the Haram. It's possibly one of the most beautiful documentary films ever made.
Yeah.
One Night in Al-Aqsa is also beautiful, but it embodies the hecticness around Jerusalem. It embodies that the grittiness around Jerusalem as well. And one of the things about Jerusalem is obviously it hasn't just got Islam there; it's got three faiths there.
Yeah.
So it's got Judaism there, and it's got Christianity. And what's really interesting how they mingle together, how these faiths interact with each other. So that's something the film touches upon. But as well as that, you also get a very in-depth understanding of Al-Aqsa. We clarify a lot of the myths that are around. We dispel because there's various different bits of knowledge in different places that is good knowledge. So it's kind of putting all that knowledge together in a 1.5 hour segment. But the most outstanding thing about One Night in Al-Aqsa is the focus on the Night of Power.
Yes.
Because the Night of Power, 400,000 Muslims standing and praying in unity. I mean, I've been all over the world and I've never experienced anything like that. And for me, just to capture that, put that on film and be able to bring it to audiences, that was just the amazing thing. I was so amazed that night. It was the toughest shoot I've ever done in my life. We've shot Fajr to Fajr. We had like 8 different camera crews in the compound that night, 8 different camera crews, and just coordinating everything, the heat, the fasting, the crowds, the atmosphere, being in Jerusalem, being there on that night. It was all of it was incredible. And I think the film more than anything makes you feel like you're there on that night. On the Night of Power, it's just the most amazing thing.
I've actually been to Al-Aqsa on the last 10 nights, and I remember specifically Laylatul Qadr because the IDF, they allow more people in on that night.
Yeah.
So even on the other nights, it's not as packed, but on Night of Power, you really feel it because you're going from maybe 10,000, 20,000 people to, as you said, 400,000 people in one go.
It's amazing,
Something that came across my mind, and perhaps this is kind of the end segment as we kind of have the film starting soon. But something that crossed my mind was in the Haram, right, in Makkah and in Medina. If you were to film there, I know that the Prince of Medina wants you to still do One Day in Medina.
One Day in Medina.
Those are, I would say, easy compared to somewhere like Jerusalem, because the society in Medina, Makkah, the leaders within Makkah and Medina are Muslims. So they want to promote this.
Absolutely.
How did you get around the IDF?
I mean, with Makkah and Medina, like I say, there are brothers, and any Muslim, not just me, but when you go to Makkah, you feel like you've come home. You feel like you belong there. You feel like you never want to leave that place, honestly. Medina, the same. The love that you have and the brotherhood, the feeling of unity that's around those places is amazing. Obviously, Jerusalem is a separate kettle of fish. It's occupied, The feeling of walking into Al-Aqsa and having to walk past guards with guns. It's just really sad. It's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy to have to walk past guards with guns to get into this holy place for Muslims is just, you know, it was a terrible feeling, to be honest. And I felt sad, and you know, there is a sadness around Al-Aqsa, even though there's a lot of joy, and you know, the Palestinians are the most resilient people in the world. I've never met a people as resilient as the Palestinians, but there is a discernible sadness around Al-Aqsa, you know, and that really, I think that feeling comes across in the film as well, that this place is occupied. It's in a terrible state of disrepair also, because basically, and this is something we touched upon in the film, we asked the president of the Waqf why Al-Aqsa is like this, and he basically said, we've tried all kinds of projects, the lighting project, the flooring projects, the sound system projects, you know, projects for washrooms and wudu areas. All of these projects get blocked. They all get blocked by the administration, who refuse to, basically they tie them up in endless amounts of administration, and they never get the permission to do them. So really the Waqf department is doing a magnificent job in Al-Aqsa, because their hands are tied. They're like this and trying to maintain Al-Aqsa. And you know, the most important thing is, when I went to Al-Aqsa and I spoke to the Waqf for the first time, and I told them, okay, I want this, and these things, we need these things to make this film. And then, you know, at the end I kind of said to them, oh yeah, by the way, what do you guys want? Because I want to make this film for you. I want it to be something beneficial for you, something that helps you. And they said, no, we don't want anything. We don't want anything from you guys. We don't want any money or any like this charity stuff. And he even said, funnily, which made me chuckle, was he said, and we don't even care if you go on these marches that you guys go on in London and stuff. It doesn't affect us. You know, it might affect your political guys there, but it doesn't affect us at all. He says, all we want is for people to come and visit us. Yeah, to show solidarity with us, to stand with us, to pray with us, you know, to show a presence, to show that, you know, Al-Aqsa is important to the Muslims, you know. So that was the most important thing I took away from my initial meeting with the Waqf, and that is basically transcribed into the film. So that just resonated with me so much. I was like, wow, that's the reason why this film is being made. This film is not being made just to show Al-Aqsa and to clarify the thing. It's basically being shown as a rallying call to get people to say, hey, we need to go to Jerusalem, we need to visit Al-Aqsa, because it's the third holiest site in Islam. It's in a state of disrepair, it's under occupation. We have to go and support, and we have to go and show solidarity with Al-Aqsa. And I think that's the most important message of the film.
Absolutely. And on my last podcast with Way of Life SQ, he actually came back from Al-Aqsa recently, and he said something very profound. He said, it's not necessarily that there's an Israeli occupation, it's that there's a lack of Muslim occupation.
Yeah.
And it's so profound to go from 400,000 on one night to then Eid, where there's a similar number of people, potentially even more, I believe, on Eid they're let in, to literally 2 or 3 days later, it's empty. It's empty.
I mean, you know, when I first walked into Al-Aqsa, I was obviously in awe, you know, seeing all these wondrous sights. But at some point, I must have turned around to my producer who was with me and said, but where are all the people?
Yeah.
Like, where are the Muslims?
Yeah.
Like, I think the first salah I played in there was Asr. I must have prayed an Asr salah, and I think there was only 3 rows, less than 3 rows of people. I was so shocked because I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to be, you know, not like Makkah and Medina, but I was expecting a good amount of people. And then I realized that actually Al-Aqsa is deserted most of the time, and this is something really, really sad, and something that the Muslims around the world must address, and, you know, just to reinvigorate the love in our hearts for Al-Aqsa, because this is really our holy place, one of the holiest places for us, and we must stand up for it, we must look after it, we must be counted, you know, amongst the people who go there, because it's truly it's a wonderful experience to go there. People need to understand that it's not the kind of propaganda that's put out that it's really dangerous, that you know, IDF are everywhere. No, it's not, especially not to people who've got passports like me and you have got.
Exactly.
If you've got that European passport, that American passport, that UK passport, you've literally got no excuse. They're going to be more scared of you than you're going to be of them. Exactly. They're more scared of doing something wrong to you and creating bad publicity. You need to go there. You know, it's your duty to go there.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most amazing things about Al-Aqsa is, obviously we know that there's not more than an inch where either an angel or prophet has stood.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Al-Aqsa is I know this is going to sound a bit too informal, but it sounds like Al-Aqsa is where the party was at. I mean, all the prophets came and they prayed there.
It's the only place where all the prophets have ever gathered. You know? Not in Makkah, not in Medina, in Jerusalem, in Al-Aqsa. That's where all the prophets got together. And
you know, without sounding too kind of metaphysical, but it's almost like that's the gateway to heaven, because that's where Prophet ﷺ ascended to Jannah.
Say, absolutely,
So you know, it's definitely a place that has a special feeling. I remember when I first saw the Dome of the Rock, that I looked at it and I stared at it, and it felt like it was alive, like it was a
it's
living.
fun,
I mean, it's only a building.
It really has a big effect when you first see it, though.
The environment,
Yeah.
you're walking, you've got these the olive trees that are everywhere on the compound, and it's just an amazing and a beautiful place. And I think just to kind of cap things off, just to ask two things.
Yeah.
Why should people come to watch this movie?
Yeah.
Muslim or non-Muslim?
Yeah.
Why should people come to watch this movie? And what is your hope when people leave this movie?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I think people should watch this movie. Simple fact that Al-Aqsa is the third holiest site in Islam. There's an opportunity to come and learn and basically to see something visually that is beautiful, but also to see something that they haven't seen before. Because I've watched everything about Al-Aqsa like I do on any of the films I make. I watch everything that's on the market. And I know for a fact there's just no footage like the kind of footage... there's no footage like the kind of footage, the shots that we have here. It's just amazing. So really, I would urge all the people to come and bring your young people as well, because we really need to educate the next generation. And this is really this film can be seen as a tool that is really going to educate a lot of people about Al-Aqsa, Muslim or non-Muslim. It's going to show them the Islamic perspective. Can you believe that we've had this place for 1,500 years? It's been an Islamic, historical site for Islam, and only now we've made a feature-length documentary about it. So that's incredible for me. And what will people gain? I mean, like I say, my aim is just to show people something visual, something they can really, show them as if they're almost like they're there. So I think people who haven't been to Al-Aqsa, this will be very beneficial, because it will give you a real in-depth look at what goes on in Al-Aqsa and how it will be if you do go there. And people who've been there already, mashallah, it will just serve as a beautiful reminder, inshallah.
And last question, did you get tortured at the airport like most people believe?
I actually didn't at all. I can't lie. I mean, alhamdulillah, we had some very good contacts there. So for us, we had a VIP. As we touched the tarmac, a car came and picked us up, and we didn't see any of that kind of. But I know that people do get delayed at the airport. But that's like normal. Sometimes I get delayed coming back into Heathrow. It's the same difference. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. I would say to people, do not be deterred by getting held up at the airport. You will get through. That's just something they do to try and stop you. It's just like, and you have to think how resilient the Palestinian people are. They have to queue at checkpoints for hours and hours just to get to Al-Aqsa, and they live in the area, and we're coming from, we just have to be stronger and just shrug that off. I actually feel like saying it's nothing. It's actually nothing. Go there, stand in the queue, you're going to get through in the end. I know it can seem a bit daunting, but honestly, I'd say to everyone, every single person in the UK needs to go and visit Al-Aqsa. It's our duty to visit Al-Aqsa, our duty to support Al-Aqsa, and this is the third holiest site in Islam. Your iman will be increased by going to this place. I guarantee that.
Abrar, a pleasure to meet you, to speak to you.
I'm sorry it got so busy and
this is life.
Yeah, the screening's about to start now. So
but I think we should do another one at another point
in a studio, maybe
in a studio, and because your tour doesn't end just in the UK, from what I understand, it's kind of going global now. Yeah,
we're going Australia, we're going Canada, we're going to the USA, South Africa. These are just the ones that have been signed now, but inshallah, a lot more countries. I think Denmark, Sweden, they've also been assigned. We're literally about to start, and I'm being told to wrap up. So,
bro,
Jazakallah.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take
care. Good luck. Assalamu alaikum.